Okay, it is Friday, June 2nd at 4:04 p.m. and this is a meeting of the Transfer Station Committee for the town of Hanson. And I'll take roll call. Melissa Panetti is here.
For Weeks.
And Mike Dugan is not available tonight.
Yeah, we do have Gil in the audience, or
Gil.
part of the panel.
Gil is here in the audience as well. I think the both of you know Gil quite well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, indeed. Hi, Gil.
Hello, Todd.
Hey, Gil.
All right. So just jumping out of order quickly, we are going to table approving the minutes from the May 19th meeting until our next meeting.
I think it would make sense anyways, regardless if we have the minutes for Mike to be here to vote.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And next up, we have Claire Galkowski and Todd, is it Kep?
Yep, you got it.
Good. Okay. Todd Kep, Claire from South Shore Recycling, and Todd from the DEP.
Yep.
To talk with us. I invited them. We invited you guys to talk with us a bit about your accumulation of knowledge around local transfer stations, how they operate, and the curbside environment in the local towns, because we are sort of looking at our overall trash situation here in Hanson over the next number of months, beginning with the creation of this committee. So would it be best for me to just turn it over to you?
I would rather you ask me questions because I mean, we could talk for hours, right, Todd?
Probably.
So,
topic near to my heart.
So did you have any particular questions you want to start with?
Well, I mean, for me, it would be easier because I don't know the two of you as well as Melissa or Gil might, and I definitely don't think the people that are going to be watching this video know who you are or what your expertise is in. So for my benefit, I think we start off with just quick introductions to who you are, a little bit of your background, and then also I know it's easier for me to ask you questions, but I don't know necessarily what to ask you in the broader sense yet until maybe you can give us a little bit of an idea of what your expertise is in so we can talk about it.
Sure. Okay, I'm Claire Galkowski. I'm the executive director of the South Shore Recycling Cooperative. Hanson is a member. We're a government organization. We're composed of 18 member towns, including Hanson, of course. We've got half our towns approximately are curbside, the other half have transfer stations. You know, and there's various models of each thing. I've been working with them for 25 years. So I'm pretty familiar with all of their programs and the challenges that each type of program can present. You know, and they're all over the place. You know, some don't charge fees, others do. Some have pay as you throw, others don't. We have a wide spectrum of models. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I think both of us would be able to speak to various types of programs that could be run. We also have one town that doesn't run a program at all, and they've tried to set one up without success for curbside. And I can tell you some of the challenges about that too. Todd, you want to?
Sure. So Todd Cap, I work with Mass DEP. I'm what's called a municipal assistance coordinator. So I have 31 municipalities that range from Quincy down to Plymouth and then all the way out to Route 24. And my main role is to help my 31 municipalities with their solid waste and recycling programs through the form of grants, which we're in right now with the Recycling Dividends Program and SMRP, and also with technical assistance. So if there's, what I mean by technical assistance, you know, I'm working on some contracts, you know, some RFPs for some municipalities. We're doing a 35-gallon toter cart rollout in Marshfield. That's another one of my programs, or technical assistance programs, and just various other things. My experience is vast. I started out in the solid waste and recycling industry when I was about 3 years old. I was on one of my father and grandfather's garbage trucks, believe it or not. He's taking me for rides out in the out in the alleys and servicing containers and stuff. And I've always been in private industry up until 7 years ago when I joined DEP as a Mac, and I never really looked back. And so the nice thing about having me in this position is I've got all that private industry experience. So I was sitting on the other side of the table for RFPs where I was, responding to them as opposed to writing them and sending them out. So I've got a really extensive background in that. And so when it comes to the RFP situation in my district, I'm very well versed in how the haulers are going to react to what we send out. I usually know the answers to their questions ahead of time, and I usually know the questions ahead of time as well because of the questions that I would have asked. But I have a lot of experience. I've got over 40 years experience in this industry, whether it's sitting around a table or actually doing it firsthand. So.
Right. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. That's really helpful for me and, the 10 to 12 people that are going to be watching this later on, I think.
It's a little hard to hear you. I don't know if something happened to the mic, but
I can talk louder.
okay, you sound kind of muffled. Is that just me, Todd, or?
No, it was a little muffled. I just cranked my speakers. So now you're really loud and they're really quiet. That's
So I'll try to ask some questions, I guess. And if it's hard to hear, just say it and I'll try to either get closer or repeat. So I guess the big question is, we're a committee that's tasked with just looking at the feasibility of just trash in the town in general. We're not tasked with picking a side or anything along those lines. We are tasked with making a recommendation based off of gathering a bunch of facts in that, but it could literally take us anywhere. So I guess the two ends of the spectrum that I might be oversimplifying are just, it seems like completely transfer station versus completely, town-wide trash pickup seems to be two opposite ends of the same spectrum in my mind. You might have a different opinion, which I'm very interested in. And then some variation in between. So I guess my big vague question is, what are the pros and cons of each end of the spectrum? And is there something in the middle that makes sense from your expertise level?
You want to go first or you want me to?
I guess I'll give it a shot and you can come in if you want. Well, from our perspective, or from my perspective anyway, the pros of a transfer station like yours is that people are more attuned to their trash and its relationship with the aggregate. To see how much trash everybody is generating, it's more personal than being, just putting it out and having it disappear at the curb. So I think it possibly fosters better disposal behavior. Plus the fact that you're separating the cardboard out, I think you have a better opportunity to monitor the quality of the recyclables, which, on a curbside program, it's dismal. People just throw in, you can't believe what people will throw in. I've pulled out potted plants, dirt and all, from people's recycling carts around my neighborhood. In addition to helping my towns, I want to see, waste minimized and recycling optimized, and having a curbside program is definitely not ideal for that kind of thing. It's also, considerably more expensive, obviously, and you still need to, you don't need to give residents options for the stuff that they can't put at the curb, but, Hull is the town that doesn't provide any services, and I get calls from their residents all the time because they don't know what to do with, propane tanks and electronics and mattresses and, some of the things, mercury products, things that shouldn't go in the trash, but if they don't have an option to do it, then they will put it in the trash, and that can lead to, explosions in trucks. I mean, it does lead to this. Things happening that you'd rather not happen on your roads. On the other side of that it's more expensive too. I don't know how you plan to fund this. If there'd be a user fee or well, you have a user fee at the transfer station right now, but it doesn't cover all your costs. So if you did switch to a curbside program and continued to collect some kind of a user fee, you would have to subsidize a good deal more, I believe. We'd have to look at the numbers more closely. I don't know what your transfer station costs are now, but that's something that you'd have to look hard at, and that's a kind of big project. Well, not big, but it would be substantial. You'd have to look at all your costs at the transfer station, what your participation is. My numbers show that in 2021, 58% of your residents had transfer station stickers. I haven't looked at 2022 yet, but that's like probably more than half of your residents are using the transfer station. There may be some who can't afford, the private haulers. I don't know what are your private haulers charging now? Are they around 600 now? Do you know?
155 per quarter.
How much?
155 per.
Oh, I was pretty close. Huh? Okay.
$600, yeah.
And it might be a little less if you do a town-wide bid. It should be a little less.
Mhm.
Of course, that includes the disposal too. It won't be vastly less, I don't think. What do you think, Todd?
Well, we're going through this in Halifax right now. And let's just say the numbers are shockingly high for curbside right now. So they've gone up drastically. So you're looking at double the transportation they charged even 2 years ago. So
Wow, really?
yeah, it's pretty insane. But yeah,
Staffing is tough and drivers
staffing's
are
tough. Yeah, the haulers are generally speaking having a hard time finding drivers or staff for the open positions that they have, which is part of the problem. But everything's gone up, as we know. Just go to the grocery store and buy eggs. They're 4 times they were 3 years ago. So, and it's the same thing within that industry. Insurance has gone up drastically. Any kind of municipal program where they've got to pay prevailing wage, it's gone up double over the last 3 years ago. So it's just everything is going up, and I don't see it coming down anytime soon, if ever. So you've got to take that into consideration.
Have you
Plus, there's also an issue of Claire brought up the quality of the recycling, which is a huge issue. On Tuesday, we just had a big meeting. Boston staff had a big meeting about last year's solid waste survey, and the numbers are going in the wrong direction. So we have almost zero landfill capacity. We're not creating or offering permits for any new waste combustion facilities. A lot of our trash is going out of state via rail haul, and we're generating more, and we should be generating less. So when I'm looking at numbers, and I'll just give you a quick thing, weekly per household pounds, we'll just put it this way. Pembroke, which is your neighbor, is at 35 gallons per week per household. Marshfield, which is a pay-as-you-throw, and I've got a 39-gallon limit, is 24 pounds. Halifax, which is full pay-as-you-throw and curbside, they're at 10 pounds. And you guys are at 13. That's really good. But the second you go to, let's just say, a cart system, and I'll give you some ideas here. So, and these are right off state numbers. If you were to go from, let's just say 10 pounds per week, you're probably looking somewhere around 500 pounds a year, something like that. If you went to a 35-gallon cart, you'd be at 1,400 pounds per year. Now that's extra disposal cost at 100. And the latest bids I'm getting is about 105 a ton. So you're looking at almost a triple increase in solid waste compared to where you're at. If you went with a bigger cart, let's just say a 65-gallon, you're looking at almost 1,800 pounds. So the increase just skyrockets with solid waste. And that's because if you're giving someone airspace, what are they going to do? They're going to fill it. And they're going to fill it with whatever they have, regardless if it's recycling or trash. They're going to put it in there, whatever's easiest. And the container could be right next to it. You could have two containers right next to each other, but if the trash is closer to the door, that's where they're throwing it. So you got to be really cognizant of you're going to go to a curbside program, the size container, the frequency of the service, and you're going to be well aware of the increase in disposal because it will happen. So.
Interesting. Okay. I have a question, and maybe slightly off topic, but related to the pay as you throw system. So I've gone back in time to 2014-ish when it was instituted in Hanson and looked at numbers and looked at how we operated the transfer station, and then fast forward to today where the numbers, perhaps there was we were closer to being able to fund the transfer station through fees back then. But looking at it now, we're not even close because of everything you say, Todd. The cost increases are dramatic. I guess I am curious if there are any other changes in terms of towns that use. Are other towns who may have pay as you throw now going to some other system with the increase in costs? Is there some other model within the transfer station model that folks are using?
The second you go away from pay as you throw, you can guarantee an increase in solid waste. You can guarantee it.
So similar to curbside, people will just.
So yeah, it's very similar. The second you get rid of pay as you throw, you can automatically increase it by about 30%. So that's going to be your base cost just in disposal is going to go up 30%. Right, just right off the bat. That's day one. The programs that we're instituting, for example, Plimpton had been a sticker, you buy a sticker for $200 and you get to throw away as much trash as you want. Yeah. And they had an issue and it wasn't covering any of their costs. They had a lot of people that were bringing in truckloads every day of trash from God knows where. It could be outside.
They bring it in from their tenants in other towns, things like that. Hanover has this problem, and Kingston as well. Neither of them are pay as you throw, but they're both transfer station towns, and they have really high trash generation.
So Plimpton went pay as you throw on April 1st. Immediately they saw a reduction, just right off the bat. I mean, it was just everybody's complying, and now we're 2 months into the program. It's running very smooth. They've had no complaints. And their trash has gone down drastically. I'm just waiting for the latest reports, but your program right now it's in a very, very good state. If you go away from that, you're gonna increase cost regardless. It doesn't matter what you do, it's just gonna go up. So if you're trying to cover your costs, if you're not covering your costs, we need to look at the financials. And you can send those to Claire and I. We can go through them. We can analyze them. We can figure out where you really need to be on your sticker fee, because that should be covering your basic expenses. All your fixed costs should be covered by that. The pay as you throw fee for the bags, that only should cover disposal. So if you can break that down properly, the bag fee should be reasonable. The sticker fee might be a little bit higher. I'm not sure. What are you guys charging right now for sticker fees?
So we are at $100 every 2 years, so $50 a year.
That's way too low. You're not covering. I can tell you that right now. You're not covering anything. It'll never work. The math doesn't work. Yeah. I don't even need to analyze it.
Yeah. What is your goal here? What has inspired you to look at this? What is the problem? I assume there's a problem somewhere that you're trying to address.
Yeah.
So the issue has been that increasingly over the years, what we're bringing in is nowhere near covering the costs or coming close to covering the cost of the transfer station. And I think, that has brought up concerns from residents who may use curbside. We're subsidizing with greater and greater taxation each year. So we convened this committee to look at, is that typical and standard given the environment and the climate now versus 2014? Is there another model? Are our fees too low? Are the bags working? And that's really where we're at.
typically on average, you see a fee of at least 125 a year, not every 2 years. So
Yeah,
just taking that, and that's just like an average. That's not even an actual number. That's just an average. So if you just look at that and you look at 125 times your sticker sales, honestly, you could probably cover your fixed expenses at the transfer station with that. You may not be able to cover the recycling in there because that has gone up a lot. And I don't know if it's going to go down. Nobody knows. It's a commodity driven market, just like, the stock index. But I'll tell you what, if you send over the financials and what it's doing, I could probably solve it within a couple of hours. It's probably wouldn't take very long.
and I can send you a table with all the fees that all the surrounding towns are charging, if you want. Would that be helpful?
Very helpful. We just, an added piece of information, we didn't charge a sticker fee until 2019.
Perfect.
And I heard that people were not happy that they had to pay anything. People
Yeah.
have to understand that trash is expensive. They're buying this stuff. It's their consumption.
Yeah.
They can't get a free ride on,
Yeah.
the disposal of stuff. SSRC is working hard on shifting the costs to the producers with called producer responsibility legislation. In fact, there's a hearing in a week and a half that I'll be going to, and we're actually trying to get municipal organizations like yours to sign an endorsement form if that's something you might be interested in, to take all the recycling costs and some of the disposal costs too off of the municipal shoulders and put it on the producers through an embedded fee for the packaging that they're using and the printed paper like junk mail. And they would have to raise enough money through the fees to cover all your recycling costs.
Mhm.
And there are also incentives to reduce the amount of trash, the non-recyclable stuff, to get that out of the packaging and switch over to more recyclable materials, improve the markets by requiring recycled content, that sort of thing. So, I mean, these problems that you're having, really, they start at the manufacturer. And we're not going to solve them at the back end like this. So I don't want to go on too long about this but this has been something I've been focused on for several years now, and it's gaining traction. 4 states have passed laws mandating this, and a lot of the world already uses this. So if your committee would be also willing, or the Board of Selectmen even, to sign a resolution or sign the endorsement form for us to bring to the Environment Committee on June 14th, that would be very helpful too. But I know I digress here, but I feel strongly that that's the only way we're really going to solve these problems.
So can I just add something really quick?
Yes, go ahead.
So, one of the things that we really want to focus on is, we had this enterprise fund up until this past town meeting that we were hopeful that it was going to be able to take big chunks, if not pay for it, to your point, for the operational costs of things. We have about a third of our residents are on fixed income. So it's not that, and they're very much attached to, amongst others, very much attached to the transfer station and its ease of use. It's also a place where there's community and people talk and all that stuff. But really what it comes down to is we're trying to be mindful. And one of the reasons why we're so passionate about trying to put this task force together was the way it was operating before. We haven't looked at it in a while. Let's take a peek at it again. Our seniors and fixed income residents, that number is growing. We also are juxtaposed with increasing number of people going to people going to curbside pickup through private haulers, which is taking even more out of the funds for the transfer station in terms of pay as you throw. So we're trying to do it in a way, and the reason why I'm kind of harping on this is because if when you help us to try to look at what the right number is, I just want to give you some more context around that, because I think everybody across the board recognizes that our numbers aren't high enough, because just basic math shows that that's not the case, that it's not enough to cover that. What's also not helpful is, budgeting X, and then when we come through a special town meeting to fund the transfer, we're to Melissa's point, we're increasing the number of taxation dollars to supplement the shortfall. from it. So when you're doing your calculations, we're just trying to do it in a way that is mindful and fiscally responsible, but at the same time doesn't put the, the tax, the burden of use on fixed income folks, because they don't have the funds. They're feeling the monetary crunch just like everybody else is, so they might feel a little bit more comparatively.
Yeah, I'll look at
Some towns, oh, go ahead, Todd.
doing a reduced fee for the fixed income and low income. It's seniors.
That'd be
So,
great.
because that's, we
Does
do have
that.
that. Yeah, we do have that in Plimpton, and that's one thing we did incorporate because they also have a very large elderly population on a fixed income. So we did have to change, and it's only a $20 difference, but it worked. So
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's important context. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. That was one of my questions. The other question I have, and Todd, this may be my ignorance and it maybe is too big of a task, but it would be very interesting as we sort of put this forth to our residents over the next number of months. Are you able, based on what you know in the surrounding towns that have curbside or are currently considering curbside, understanding that there'll be a range and these won't be exact, but are you able to provide us with an idea of what it would look like for the town, our town? Consider.
that's easy.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that's easy. So I do have a proposal that an RFP that just closed. I've got the numbers and I just analyzed them today. I cannot send them out because it's not been awarded. So I can't really talk about it. But what I can say is when that's done, it's an equivalent size, maybe a little bit smaller, but it's pretty close. And I think it would be very eye-opening for you guys to take a look at it once it's all said and done. So, but that's within 2 weeks. I'll be able to send it out. So.
Perfect. That'd be great. Thank you. I think that comparison will be helpful.
Have you ever had any towns that went to full curbside and then regretted it? And then
Yes.
Yep.
Plymouth.
Funny.
can you tell me?
Plymouth did that several years ago. They had 3 transfer stations in their town and they had to close one of them because some issues with the county, because it was a shared property, a leased property, something. So they were going to have to close their main transfer station. So, well, when they were deciding whether they should keep the other 2 open, they went out to bid. They awarded the curbside contract for a townwide contract to a company that ended up not providing good service and trying to, go outside the contract, raise their rates, even though it was in the contract. And it was very ugly. They did keep one of their transfer stations open because there were people like you have in Hanson that were adamant that they wanted their transfer station to stay open. And unfortunately, that's only serving about 15% or so of the population now. But Plymouth is a very big town, and it's a half hour for some of the residents to drive there.
Right.
So
They also had a very different setup with the curbside where it was pay as you throw and it had to be in the container. So you had to have pay as you throw bags in the container, but people were trying to cheat the system and it was a big mess. So there's a lot to it.
So now most of the residents are doing their own thing, like some of them are in Hanson.
Yeah, they have
Do
an
you have any good numbers about how many residents in Hanson actually use private subscription?
I know I can give you the flip side, which is that we have just over 1,800 stickers, active stickers right now.
Okay.
30 about
So is that representative of each sticker represents a household?
more or less. We have some households that have 2 stickers or multiple stickers, I should say, but that number is fairly low.
Okay.
And there are about 3,900 households in Hanson.
2 per household. Okay. So it's about half then, less than half. So it's dropped even since 21, huh?
Yeah. Did you
Wow.
survey any of those people that or ask the question why they decided to go curbside over using the transfer station?
No, but certainly would welcome your thoughts on surveying the town as something that we had brought up in one of our prior meetings.
Yeah, I would definitely think about that, and I'll work on some questions for you. But I think it's wise to actually survey people on why they left, because there's a huge difference between paying no sticker fee and just pay as you throw bags compared to $600 a year for curbside. So for me, for a fixed income community, that doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. That's a big expense. I mean, I'm not rich by any means, and I live in Barnstable County, and our sticker fee just went up. Now it's going to cost me $355 for 2 stickers from when it
Wow.
started at 160 with 3 years ago. Um,
Wow,
but
holy
for,
moly.
but I went out and I checked out curbside because it's like, well, wait a second. Now I'm talking almost $400 for stickers. Maybe I can do curbside. So I went every other week, and I got a quote for every other week. It's still $600. It's like, it, I can't afford that,
Mhm.
you know? So, I mean, it's kind of, it's that. So I'm going to go to the transfer station. I mean, it's a big chunk of change to take out in June, but it is what it is. So, but it's expensive. So,
And rising, we just got, I can speak for our household, we use both, we use the transfer station and we have curbside. And we had, I think, a $15 increase from the last increase 3 months ago, so it's
Yeah.
and rising, I have to say.
yeah, it's not going to ever go down. So,
You're correct. I have a question that is interesting. What does it cost? And again, this is for me, it's sort of comparative data. What does it cost to cap transfer stations?
I don't know that.
Cap, you mean just close it? I mean, you cap a landfill. I
Yeah.
assume your landfill's capped, right?
Well, should be.
Yeah, close to decommission it, you mean?
Yeah.
Sure, I don't know the lingo. I
No
wasn't.
idea.
Yeah.
No idea.
Closing it, I mean, I think most of your equipment's rented through, well, what was ABC, right? So that would just go back. I don't know what other containers you have there, if you own them or if you're renting them. If you're owning them, you could probably sell them and make a couple bucks, or you could use them at DPW. But I'm not sure. I mean, literally, if you close something down, you just lock the gate.
So there's nothing that needs to be done to the grounds.
For a transfer station, you may want to check with the Southeast Regional Office. I'm not on the regulator side, so and they purposely keep me out of that stuff. So I'm the nice side of DEP. I'm not the enforcement. So, but if you check with the Southeast Regional Office, which is down in Lakeville, you can give them a call.
Okay.
They should be able to help you out with that.
All right.
I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot, but you get a permit every year for it to operate as a transfer station. So there's got to be something involved to close it down. But I just don't.
In my process of learning about trash over the last year, it had come up as a potentially large cost to the town if we ever did. Which isn't, I don't think we're leaning that way, but if we ever did, and I think that that's an important piece of data for us to have.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know.
Okay.
Now, a couple of things that might be on the pro side of curbside. Well, actually, one of them isn't really. I know in the town of Hull, where the town doesn't provide services, people are very creative about how they get rid of their trash. I've heard of neighbors doubling up, and having one subscription for 2 households, which means they have to watch the amount that they dispose of, because you can only fill up one container. Or people take their stuff to work. People do get creative if they're really in a pinch. Separately from that, the town of Rockland has a recycling center right on the Hanson line. You probably know, on Beach Street, and their health agent wants to open it to residents of surrounding towns that don't have the service. Right now, she's talking to Abington and Whitman about it, and they do offer, overflow recycling, electronics, propane tanks, the oddball stuff that people call me about all the time because they're not accepted in the curbside program. So that's something. Of course, that's totally on the health agent. If she were to leave, then the proposal will probably go away. It hasn't gotten very far yet, but just Just so you know what, there's an option on that side.
Bill, did you have any questions?
I think I'm all set. As far as the grant coming up, maybe we get together next week or so. Mr. Grant talk.
I don't think he could.
I don't think she can hear you.
We can't hear anything.
I can hear it.
I can hear a voice in the distance.
He's asking about the grant that you are both working on. He said he's going to try and get in touch with you next week.
Okay, perfect.
I mean,
Yeah, oh yeah, I offered Gil to come down after our board meeting on the 7th.
okay,
So I haven't heard back yet.
it's okay for that.
Sounds good? Okay.
The only other question I have, I guess, is another vague one, but you kind of segued into it, is aside from transfer station versus curbside, are there any in between things that other towns have done, or is it really just one or the other?
No, people do both. So for example, in Halifax, you've got the pay as you throw program, which is probably going to go to carts here in a short amount of time. But they're going to end up with a 48-gallon cart with pay as you throw for extras. In the recycling is a hybrid. So they have a recycling center. They have the drop off, which is great. It's one of the better ones in my district. It's very well run, but they also have a truck. They have their own town truck, which goes out and picks up the single stream from the residences if it's out. So they still have to drive up and down every street. They got A week, B week, but they still service it that way too. They have a relatively low sticker price, which is going to go up because once again, they got new numbers and they're a lot higher. But one thing that they did ask me about was they're considering, and I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but they may actually turn their recycling center into a transfer station. I said, you're gonna have to talk to Ciro about that. That's out of my jurisdiction. So that's a regional thing. And they're gonna have to discuss that with them because once again, you guys are already permitted as transfer station. They're not. So there's different rules for transfer stations compared to recycling centers. Recycling centers are really easy. There's no solid waste on the property. It's really not that big of a deal. But there are a lot of hybrid programs out there that have both. And it's not just here, it's across the state.
That's really
But most of them don't do the trash, do they?
Some do, some don't.
Okay.
So
Well,
for example, Wareham has a curbside program through ABC, which is now Harvey, which is Waste Connections. And this is after the solid waste district got demolished after their host agreement. So they went from zero disposal to the residents to the residents paying about $600 a year overnight. From December 30th to January 1st, their bill went from 0 to 600. So when you want to talk about sticker shock, they definitely had it. But they also held the transfer station. They held on to the transfer station that they have. So there is a drop off for some recycling there, but they do have 3 compactors. I want to say it's either 2 or 3 compactors. For that, it's pay as you throw. So if the resident opts out of the curbside, they can have both if they want, and there is a sticker fee. They took all my ideas and used a consultant, which I think is ironic, but their fee is exactly what I proposed, which was $125 to pay for the fixed cost, and then their bag fee was I think $225 to $250 a bag for the large ones. Exactly what I had proposed to them based on the numbers that I had, and they stuck with it. So they also are a newer one too, because that just happened within the last 2 years, 3 years. I think it was just before COVID. It was 2021 that it went in, or 2020 that it went into effect. So, yeah, but there's a few.
And the challenge though, going from zero to, well, going from a transfer station to a program where some of the residents may have gotten creative as they have in Hull. In order to get the kind of economy of scale that you would need to get in a townwide bid, you would need to require people to participate pretty much, because in Hull they tried to do this, but a lot of people were gaming the private system, as I had mentioned before, and they couldn't get enough people to commit to, they didn't want to have to opt out of it, like in Marshfield. So for instance, in Marshfield, they have a curbside townwide program and a transfer station, but if you want to opt out of the curbside trash program, you have to come to town hall for an abatement, and you have to prove that you have service from a private vendor. So therefore, you know, if you are like doubling up with your neighbor or whatever, hang on, I'll turn on my light. It's getting dark out there fast. So, you know, that might be challenging too. Because if you start a program like that and only half of your residents sign up for the town program, you know, I don't know if your bidder will probably have different pricing depending on participation, I would guess. Is that realistic, Todd?
Yeah.
So that's another potential problem that you might encounter. You know, if you make participation optional.
Okay,
It's really helpful.
yeah, this is great. Any other
I'm all set. I mean,
thoughts?
this was absolutely fantastic being able to speak with you both. I've learned more in the last 45 minutes than pretty much the last 10 years about this stuff. You guys are great, really.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that all our years of just pounding our head against the wall is
It's not going
amused.
to waste.
Not going to waste.
Claire gave
Literally.
And I will send you the summary of the fees,
That'd be great.
probably Monday, because I'm itching to get out to do some planting before the skies open up.
That's good. If we,
Temperature, I think, just plummeted 20 degrees.
oh yeah, me too. It's going to. If we need to circle back with you all after we get some numbers and we educate ourselves a little bit more, are you open to coming back in a few months, maybe?
Sure,
It's my job. You
Yeah.
call me when you need me.
Thank
me
you.
too.
Good afternoon.
It makes us feel useful.
It's great. I really appreciate that.
really helpful, Claire. You've been just excellent helping
Mhm.
certainly helping me get up to speed on the trash situation. I've learned more in the last year about trash than I ever dreamed.
Or whoever wanted.
New composter because of you too, so.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I find it fascinating, and you know, I'm always appreciative when other people are interested too.
Yeah,
So,
that's
so
been,
thank you for taking the time to really dive deeply into this.
Sure.
And
all right.
do call.
We'll be in touch and I'm sure we'll have follow-up questions and we'll look out for your data.
Sounds great.
Good.
Thank you
All
both.
right.
Have a great
You're
weekend.
welcome. Have a good weekend.
Okay,
Thank
you
you.
too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right,
Really good. I like it.
very helpful. Very helpful.
They have everything they've done since we've been social recycling, all the numbers, all the things.
Right.
She's probably watching it right now. That's what I'm trying to evaluate the target coming up. We're doing the next one coming up. And the Claire coming down, we go over everything.
Mhm.
And we get an average of 10,000 last year.
Mhm.
We save money now, but they have everything there is.
Mhm.
And, you know, I brag about our transfer station all the time. We meet all the waste bands. So there's nothing that's banned out there that we have to say you got the bin. Listen, we're already in the bin, up to date on all the bins, propane, tires,
Great.
steel, you know, textiles, mercury, oil, everything. So there's no surprises as far as something, like most towns like, you gotta start taking, American. You're not gonna get an infiltration, but,
Right.
I always brag about a transfer station. Other towns look at a transfer station.
Mhm.
It does operate properly. So you more efficient, yes. My big thing with the transfer station is the containers that we don't. You gotta get tons of power. And I think that's all the time.
Yep.
Because we're separating already. And we run a good operation of hardwoods near perfect. So we're doing really good. And I look into the future, yes. Prices are going up, but we have a lot going on. Everything's happening all over the world. So commodities market, the price not going up. And maybe at that point in time, you know, the commodity prices, stuff like that. Granted, there's a lot of stuff all over the world, a lot of construction.
Mhm.
I mean, we look at everything. We have one of the best. complex layout, every time it's look at a transfer station. You know, I can't brag enough about it, yes, it does cost a lot.
Mhm.
And we got to fund it. I realized this ticket fee should have been $130 4 years ago.
Right.
And it never took place. So, but that's where it lies. And the cost we can cut maybe a little bit, but the ticket fee has to go up. And that's what happened every time. They said, East Bridgewater, and Hollywood. And they got like 250 a year now, something like that.
Mhm.
They can solve that deficit.
I'd be interested to know any thoughts you have on how we get the tonnage up in the containers before they're picked up. I know that's come up.
We had two compactors there. They pack for 3,500 pounds. And if you burn it up, those compactors get 6 to 8 tons. Recycling is difficult because we don't know what's going to be. We got to keep pushing the button and the two on
Mhm.
back up. And when I get behind the compactors, the company that did the compacts that say contract fairly well. And compacts not that great. That's why I had rock and COVID. And I would love to have a long time. That have the best compact. You get that. And I think the money work that's on that.
Sure.
Steels, now it's generating a lot of money. It's kind of upsetting.
Sure. Joe, just to get you
Mhm.
up to speed on what I was asking about, one of the things that's come up is that the containers will be picked up before they're full.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah,
And so I remember when we met with Waste Management to
Yeah.
get their numbers, she was saying they have this new technology where they can remotely tell
Mhm.
how much space is left in their bins. But we should not be sending out
Right.
containers that are not completely full. It's a tremendous amount of money.
A recycling
So-
container, maybe maximum 3.8 ton.
Mhm.
There's a specific gravity of the material. We still take, which we discussed it before, still take and stuff like that. But the people from, before say that, keep it that way, but it's not great stuff. Again, demolition. Down there, we get demolition container, this is keep it that way. See what things goes up or just talk about that.
Right.
So I'm thinking just as next steps for this is once we get some information based off of the recommendations for our realistic fees, we
Mhm.
can add that to the list of proposals as we get ready, because I'm caught in this place where, I don't, unless this might just be my opinion on this, but I don't think we're tasked with giving the Board of Health recommendations for how they should operate currently. We're tasked with giving the townspeople at town meeting an idea of what we think should happen, and then from that point, make decisions. So if you guys, as Board of Health agent or part of the, part of the committee, if you want to make current recommendations to operations or plot, I think that's outside the scope of here, in my opinion. So I think next steps, what we should really just figure out how we can incorporate that data, see if the recommendations that they give to us are things that we think make sense, and then get input from you guys based off of that.
Yeah, and timing wise, I think that will actually work out quite well because we are currently in this cycle that ends next June 30th with stickers. So
Yeah.
everybody's locked in right now
Right.
until then.
Yeah.
So we have a year
Right.
really
Perfect
to
opportunity.
think about,
Good point.
I think Claire and Todd will generate the numbers better than we can generate, because they have all the numbers.
Yeah.
They have like textile, but they have everything, the grant money and what was spent, and so they'll be able to do the financial report better than we can ever put together.
Yeah, especially comparatively to other towns and what they're doing and what makes sense. So to me, that's logical next step. We just wait to see what they say.
yeah, I
Go from
agree.
there.
I actually was thinking probably makes sense to have our next meeting be after we have that data.
I would, yeah, that would make sense, because I'm not sure what more we could do between now and then.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. So we will, let's schedule that. Are you comfortable with scheduling that? offline so we can
Absolutely.
include Mike? Okay,
Absolutely.
great. All right, and also on the agenda is a report from Eric, the accountant, who did not make it today, so we
We
will
can table that.
table that. All right, any other new business?
Also, we have to, water. And water, we have studies that we done. We're an enterprise, we're a public utility.
Mhm.
And this studies that we done, as well as what we charge for rating. So we did a study, we did the whole town, which in doing that, we think water over years, we generated nothing from the additional needs. And then we had a study for the rates. And the company can do the study, we have to invest, we have to put money in the bank. And then the money, they came up with the different rates that we can charge over here. So that's, we pay them in this stuff. But these people here have it, they can provide us all this information, and we can project further. The budget never asked us, we just got it, price went up, and it's going to be starting to change. It's this point, 24 from that percent. And also this price. You gotta do it several times, you gotta catch up. You gotta catch up in 5, 6, 7 years. That's what I get to say.
No, it's important.
All right,
Appreciate it.
great, Gil, thank you, appreciate you coming out. All right.
Good business.
I do appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so should we make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will second, all in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll say it again,